Okay, I'm going to talk over the sound of the dryer off in one direction and my printer in the other, but this is literally one of these, hey, I have to pass this on to you moments. So, as always, public service announcement, motion sickness alert. Yeah, what we got here is possibly, very likely, my greatest challenge yet. This is a repeat customer whom I've known for many years, and unfortunately he's developed quite marked scoliosis, the curvature of the spine. And I've mentioned in the past how it's not unusual to find somebody with a slightly asymmetric pelvis, one that's higher than the other. But this is the most extreme case I've ever seen. And to the extent that here we have the lower buckle, and this originally was just with a strap and a buckle on either side with the buttonhole. But first I've let it out because his figure has changed over the years, and I discovered that I was, again, and I think I've mentioned this before, and it might have been for the same customer, that the layout of the way the cloth was arranged to get these pleats, in fact, let's just see. No, okay. In any case, yeah, the way the cloth is laid out to achieve these pleats, I really couldn't put in a new buttonhole because of it just struck me as a bad idea. So I'm doing it the reverse, as I've done before, of a strap where the buckle should be, and a buckle where the strap should be. Now, but again, such is his scoliosis that instead of the buckles, which are securing at the waist, being relatively the same distance, plus or minus an inch, if we want to shorten a kilt, either on both sides or one side, we drop that strap and buckle, which brings the kilt up. Well, in this case, from here, we're dropping it a full, let me look, that looks like 5 inches to me. Well, okay, yeah, almost nearly 5 inches. We're dropping this buckle down to here because in order for the lower edge of the kilt to be level relative to the floor, there's this, right there. This is the top of his pelvis, right? This is where we have to do it, and this isn't through any sort of calculation or anything else. This is a result of several fittings where he's come over from the island to be fitted. So this is now the necessary buckle to bring it up to what is now his natural waist. I'm going to have to add a third buckle here so that the top of the apron doesn't droop down. So we're sort of going back to the earliest days of the single width kilt, in which the kilt would be held with initially with a big blanket pin at the natural waist, and then another one high up at the upper selvage edge, so that the top of the cloth didn't flop over. So so this is dropping down here. I'm going to have to drop this strap down as well. Now this causes some concerns on the inner side, which I'll show you now. He's quite adamant, he wants the loops to be sewn back on, because even though the kilt, we're doing our best to make sure that the kilt will be held in place as is typical with the straps and the buckles. Usually if a kilt needs a belt to hold it in place, it simply doesn't fit. But in this case, he really wants the added security of his waist belt. Now, when we do this, as I said, we make this kilt markedly askew. The lower edge is going to look parallel to the ground. He's not concerned about the upper edge because he's going to be wearing a waistcoat and probably a coat as well. He's not going to be walking around in his shirt sleeves because, frankly, the thought of, I could do it, but it would require another couple of fittings, because if you solve one problem at a time. You don't we don't resort to the shotgun effect. We solve one problem at a time. So strap and buckle achieve that. And then we had discussed then cutting the top of the kilt at that angle, and it would be literally have to try it on and then mark it with chalk and then cut to the line, because there's no way, there's no rule of thumb that I can imagine that would produce a satisfactory outcome just from, shall we say, theoretical principles. So I'm not going to be able, he's coming over later this week, and I'll be trying it to him with, again, that buckle in that location. I might have to raise this strap up, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and this buckle as well, because of course we're dropping this buckle to lift this edge. We're raising this buckle to drop the other edge. But let's take a look on the inside, because this has created another couple of, well, it's raised another question, which as usual came to me, or the solution came to me at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So looking inside, now I found the location for the buckle. I laid it right side up. The buckle was in position. I put a couple of pins through and then flipped it over and then marked the position. So this is where the buckle is going to be sewn when it's on the outside of the kilt. But that's out with the canvas, isn't it? So what I'm going to do here, because remember, this isn't just for pretty. It's integral to the fit and the comfort and, frankly, the longevity of the kilt. Because remember, these seams are weak in tension. So the canvas is the frame that the facade is suspended from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this piece of canvas, because remember, the lining, it'll be covered by the lining, like this. But I'm going to put in this piece of canvas so that, and this is going to be, it's attached with the same herringbone stitch that we've used here. That piece of canvas, and then after that's in place, the buckle will be sewn onto that. And then, again, I'm gonna raise this buckle, I think, let's say an inch. And also, looking over here, because our new strap, this strap is coming up almost to the top. This strap is going to be here-ish. Well, I'm also going to have to put, I'm going to have to open this up again, and I'm going to have to put a similar piece of canvas here. This is going to be, okay, this is going to be interesting, because if I put that strap there, there's, granted, there's there's four, at least 4 layers of tartan in there, but still, look at that. That's not going to work. So I may have to put in a doubled piece of canvas here. And then if it's sewn here and here, it's going to have to be longer. It'd have to extend down to here. And it's going to be a herringbone stitch there and also here, so that that will bear the tension of that strap. Now again, remember, normally we put all of, or at least the greater amount, the vast majority of the tension on the inside apron, but we also we have a greater need of tension on the outside apron. So I'm backing up a bit here. We put the tension on the inside apron, so it's bearing the strain, and generally that's enough. And then normally we just put the front apron across and just buckle it just tight enough to hold it in place. But in this case, the front apron has to bear part of that strain because of his hips are so very uneven. They're like 4-inch differences right and left. So a piece of canvas in here at an angle, because we can't just do it like that. It has to be at an angle. I would say no greater than 45 degrees. In fact, the closer to a lesser angle, I think, is going to be stronger, because it's going to be communicating that tension like so. Yeah, so it's going to have to be at least there, really. Okay, so I'm gonna have to open up. I'm gonna have to take out this lining actually and put this in and then sew it up again. This also means, because there's still an element of trying and fitting, this also means that when he comes on Friday, well, what I'm gonna have to run past him is, will he be content? Because this is on the inside that nobody but he and I are going to see and know about. Will he be content with a neat piece of canvas being visible behind the lining here, just, you know, looking like that? Or will he want a deeper piece of lining? I can't imagine an asymmetric lining, because even if nobody can see it, it's still going to look odd and sort of prey on our minds. So there, a doubled piece of canvas here, and I think I'll show you in the next episode what I've done with this, because we're literally designing as we go. This won't be cut away, of course, but it'll be like that. Maybe even 3 layers, so it's folded like a parfleche or in an envelope, and then sewn along its length. And I might just resort to using a sewing machine, because of that we actually want minimum yield, right? And 4 or 5 rows of machine stitching on my 19.5 Singer will suitably strengthen this. Yeah, frankly, as much as I hate to try to talk a customer into anything, this is really what I want to do. Is I'm going to give them a sales pitch to say, look, here in my limited engineering understanding, which I might be being too modest, maybe it isn't too terribly limited, but a truss, that's an unfortunate word, a truss in the engineering sense of a strap from the leather strap at a gentle angle attached to the canvas will communicate the tension so that it'll take the tension, it'll take the load, to use the engineering term, so that the outer canvas isn't distorted and wavy. Now you see this looks like a bodge job, but this is, I'd fitted it to him when he came over for his last fitting, and I just used my plain linen to attach it, because that was an interim step. So again, I'm going to raise that an inch, or I'm going to raise that center to center about an inch, and then reattach it. But this time I'll use the good quality, the better quality black linen thread, and move that buckle up to suit, so that'll be done. But yeah, so the next fitting, I'll have incorporated all of these, the strap, the dropped buckle, but I'm going to have to leave the linings open just in case there's something to do, so some alteration to make. Because as it is, you see, I'd done the lining thinking that there was a very little bit left to do, but I've had to open up the lining again, because when we sew that buckle here, the only right way to do it is through and through, so the buckle is sewn all the way through, not just the top layer of tartan. So there we go. I'm enthusiastic about this, because it's a challenge, and I want to do the best for my client. Good. I'm going to get back to work. You get back to whatever you're doing. And once again, hey, stand by for motion sickness.